Hello, everyone. This is Sean Kennedy with Philly Fast Break, and welcome to the Philly Fast Break podcast. On the line with me is our NFL handicapper, Dan Erda. We're going to go over all the Week 4 lines for you. First, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, JoannaPlatt.com. That's Joanna-Platt.com for all your life and relationship coaching needs. You can also find her podcast, the Love Always Joe podcast, available on iTunes. So give that a listen and check out JoannaPlatt.com. Thank you very much to them for sponsoring the podcast. All right, now joining me is Dan Erda. Dan, thank you for joining us today. It is your 32nd birthday. I admire the commitment to the podcast for you jumping on the call right now.
Yeah, not a problem. We are celebrating tonight, so I have a beer in hand, so maybe that'll make this podcast be especially rambunctious. But I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss a week of the podcast for anything.
All right, so another year older, hopefully another year wiser, at least in regard to your NFL picks. Fortunately, your first losing week of the season last week, you went 2-3. I went 1-1. We both were on we had a New England teaser involved, and of course the Pats Sunday night did not look good at all against Detroit, so that was a loss for us. Anything jump out to you in week 3 action?
Well, first off, if we ever see a teaser that sticks out to us as that easy, where we both see it right away, we should not play that teaser.
Yeah, it was definitely a square play, and we even said that offline going in, and it was just commiserating about how square it was. But it was like, oh, the Pats aren't going to lose 2 in a row, and he knows Matt Patricia, he knows how to exploit it. I guess the same was true in reverse. Matt Patricia knew how to shut down that New England offense, and he doubled Gronk, and he forced someone else to beat him, and no one else was up for the challenge.
So there's that. Just a reminder that nothing's ever a sure thing. And then, there's the other thing that really hit me last week was the Minnesota-Buffalo game, in which I laid 16.5 points. And not only did I not cover the spread, they lost outright by over 20, I think it was 21 points. That might be one of the most lopsided losses. And while part of me is very embarrassed by that because it was clearly a terrible pick, give me that any day over a fourth quarter backdoor cover with 1.5 minutes left in the game. At least I knew that was a loss by the first quarter.
Yeah, that was over very early. At least the hopes of the Vikings covering was over very early. I'm glad I talked you out. I know you're thinking about doing a live bet for the Vikings money line when they were down like 21-0 or something. I'm glad I talked you out of that one at least.
Did you do that? I don't really remember much of that day.
we were actually, that was the actual birthday celebration that afternoon. So I did talk you out of that one. So maybe I'll chalk that up as a 2-in-1 week for me.
Sounds good.
That's a win for me. All right, so let's move ahead to week 4. I have 3 plays on the docket. How about yourself? How do you see this slate?
I have 5. I like to get to 5. I think 5 is a good number. Like I'd say this all the time. If I don't like any plays, I have no problem playing 0. But in general, I aim for 5. It's a very good chance to, at the very worst, go 3-2.
All right, so why don't you jump right into your first play for us?
First play of the day. We talked about those New England Patriots and how we thought they were such a lock last week. Well, this week they are home against the Miami Dolphins, who are 3-0. And I don't think anything about that 3-0 is fluky. I think getting 6.5 points is way too much. I want to take the underdog there. I'm not ready to say the Pats are done, the dynasty's over. That's years past. They've gotten off to slow starts, and people have used that hot take, and it has never been true. I don't want to go there again. But just in terms of talent from all 53 men on the roster, Miami's right there with New England. It's very easy to forget that Adam Gase was a very high-profile coaching hire, and he kind of got screwed by Jay Cutler because Tannehill got hurt last year. Cutler came in, and it looked like he didn't know what he was doing. It looked like everything was a mess there. It turned out they just lost their quarterback. They're 11-1 in the last 12 games that Ryan Tannehill has started, and I really like what they're doing. They're creative. They're incredibly fast. They're getting the ball in the hands of Albert Wilson. They're getting the ball in the hands of Jakeem Grant. These guys are playmakers, and I just think 6.5 points is way too much delay. New England's showed nothing. They've been the exact opposite of the Dolphins in the fact that they look like they're slow. And the game is speeding up. You see it going on all around the league. I really like them getting the points here. I know that New England has an impeccable record at home against the Dolphins, but that was the past. It's a new time now.
Yeah, I saw the line at 7 yesterday, so anyone listening, be sure to shop around. You might be able to get that 7 line.
Yeah, it was 7 yesterday. If we recorded yesterday, it was going to be 7, but I always give the available line.
Right. Yeah, I agree with the call. Not a play for me, but it was a lean in my one pool where I have to pick the spread for every game. I went with Miami. Yeah, I think with Tannehill being mobile and the number of playmakers the Dolphins have, they'll be able to exploit the lack of speed in that New England linebacking core. We saw how with the Lions, with their pass catchers, they were able to do that last weekend. And yeah, New England, until Edelman gets back, which will be week 5, and I don't know for sure whether Josh Gordon's going to play this week, but even if he does, I don't think he will be up to speed with the full playbook, so he'll only probably be in a handful of snaps or something as they try to work him into things. Yeah, they don't have a lot of weapons right now offensively. Rex Burkhead was just placed on IR, so they're basically down to Sony Michel and James White in the backfield. And then in the receiving core, we saw against Detroit how you just double Gronk and nobody else is able to get any separation. Like they're throwing to Tom Brady basically called out Philip Dorsett last week because he wasn't able to do anything against Darius Slay. And yeah, they're just not able to make plays. So I think 6.5 or 7, either way, that's too high of a line. I don't think New England, in their current iteration, at least until they get Edelman and some other people filtered into that offense, I don't think they should be favored that much against a Dolphins team that, maybe they're not an elite team, as their 3-0 record might indicate, but they're at least an average team. So I think that many points is too many. I agree with you.
I think they're an above average team. I agree that they're not an elite team. I think they're above average. I think that they're going to get a wild card this year.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're, at the very least, they're average.
Right, gotcha.
You can parse how, as we get a larger sample size, how good you actually think they are, but they're not a bad team, is all I was saying. So, all right, I'll go ahead with my first play. We talked a little bit about Detroit against New England last week, and I like the Lions this week to at least cover. They're on the road against Dallas. Detroit is a 3-point underdog, and yeah, what have we seen from Dallas that makes anyone think they should be favored? We saw the Lions last week just tear up New England's defense. Dallas's defense has looked all right, but Sean Lee is banged up, and I think the Lions will be able to, with their three-headed monster receiver and Kerryon Johnson starting to emerge at running back, they should be able to score some points. And Dak Prescott hasn't thrown over 185 yards in it's been 5 straight games. He hasn't passed even that minuscule number. Their offense just looks terrible. They have no dynamic playmakers outside of Zeke Elliott, and I think Detroit can just stack the line, force Prescott to try to beat them, and he won't be able to do so. I don't know why Detroit's an underdog at all in this game. I'm taking the 3 points.
All right. Everything you said is true. I agree with it. From a football standpoint, I agree with you completely. But everything that you just said is also why I'm a little bit hesitant, because it makes no sense that Dallas is a 3-point favorite. They actually opened at 3.5 and were bet down to 3. But yeah, I feel like this is a game that is a trap. I feel like they want you to be on Detroit, and for that reason, I'm laying off. However, like you said, it makes sense to bet Detroit.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, it's like a letdown situation where they're coming off the big emotional win against New England where, Matt Patricia's old team, they were rallying around that. I don't know.
Absolutely. A big emotional win on the at home. Now you have to go on a road. Maybe they're feeling themselves a little bit too much. I don't know. But I absolutely think they're a better team. Fans have a bad taste in their mouth because everyone watched them in that opening week game against the Jets just get destroyed. And apparently then all the rumors came out that Matt Patricia lost the locker room and all that stuff. But they're really talented. Stafford's a good quarterback. He's proven. And they have a lot of receiving weapons. I think they can take advantage of Dallas.
All right, so we'll see how that one plays out, whether it ends up being that letdown game or not. But I like Detroit +3. All right, what's your second play of the week, Dan?
All right, because I'm a stubborn son of a bitch, I will not change my mind on the Bills. I still think they suck. I'm going to take the Packers at -9. Um, Look, some crazy things happen in life. Not everything can be explained. And what happened last week in Minnesota, I mean, aside from the fact that maybe Minnesota was looking ahead to the Rams and maybe Everson Griffin was running around the hotel lobby with a gun and freaking people out, other than that, you cannot explain what happened. But I'm wiping that from my memory. I still think the Bills are one of the worst teams in the league. I still think that they have no weapons, and I think that Josh Allen struggled playing for Wyoming a year ago. Now he's going to be playing in Lambeau Field. I know that Aaron Rodgers is basically playing on one leg, but to win this game in convincing fashion, I don't think it's too much to ask. I'm going to play the Packers, and if the Bills cover, I'm going to fade the Bills for 2 units next week. And if they lose, I'm going to fade the Bills for 4 units the week after. I'm going to keep doing that until they cover, because this Bills team sucks. They're going to lose by 30 sometime very soon.
Yeah, I think eventually they will. I don't know. This is just it's a really high line for a Packers team that hasn't looked that good this season. I mean, as you mentioned, Rodgers is basically playing on one leg. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop with that and him to just be declared out for the season at some point. I think he's got a serious injury and he's just trying to gut it out. And I don't know, like one bad hit, and I could definitely see him being out for the year. So I'm hesitant to like back the Packers in any capacity.
Well, there's speculation that he has a torn ACL. He might actually be playing on a torn ACL.
Yeah, it's definitely something. He doesn't look right, and it's a concerning situation. Like the Packers D hasn't looked great. Not that I'm overly worried about Josh Allen. Most of his damage last week was running the ball himself. He hurdled a guy, which was pretty cool, but I don't know how replicable that is in another game situation. I don't know. It's just a lot of points for me. I'm not that confident that Green Bay is a good enough team to cover a spread like that. And so all Buffalo has to be is like competent, and maybe Josh Allen under center makes them a competent team, or maybe not, and they do get blown out. But I don't know. There's just too much uncertainty for me to get behind that either way. But I definitely agree that Buffalo is going to get blown out one of these weeks. I'm just not sure if this is the week, but we'll see. So Green Bay -9, Dan's second play of the week. Next up for me is a team you actually lost with last week, but I'm going to go with them. I like Tampa Bay +3, another road dog for me. And the reason behind this is I just don't see Mitchell Trubisky being able to lead the Bears in any sort of shootouts like scenario. So they're basically relying on the Bears defense to limit Tampa Bay's offense, and I just think they're too dynamic, the Bucs offensively, to be shut down too much. We saw even last week Fitzpatrick kind of reverted to form in that first half against the Steelers, but then he came out and he looked like the Fitzmagic of weeks 1 and 2. They just have so many weapons between Howard and Brate, who finally had a touchdown last week, and then of course Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and Chris Godwin, and Adam Humphries. They got 4 very capable receivers, and they do a lot of different things out on the field. I just think they're going to be able to at least do some things against the Bears defense. I know that Chicago's ability to get pressure against Tampa could be a concern. So I don't know. It's just hard for me to see Tampa not getting into the 20s at least in this game. And I don't know how much I trust Trubisky to be able to keep up with that. So I think Tampa at the very least keeps this one close. I like them getting the points.
It's interesting. This was a stay away for me. I agree with everything you said about Trubisky. He's clearly the weakling on that team. If they had a better quarterback, they'd be a real threat. They're still home. Ryan Fitzpatrick still we're still using 3 games of his work to make this play, as opposed to the rest of his career, which shows he's very inconsistent. He's on the road. He might feel Jameis Winston breathing down his neck. I don't know. I have no problem with the play. I just stayed away. I think I was impressed by Tampa Bay for the first 2 weeks. I played them last week. They burned me. You talk about Chris Godwin. He killed me last week. He was absolutely terrible. He fumbled the ball and he dropped a touchdown.
Yeah, he had two bad drops.
He had two bad drops and I think he had a fumble as well.
Yeah, he did.
But you know what? Like, it's one of those plays where I don't particularly agree with you, but I wouldn't take the Bears either. So let's
All
go.
right.
Let's go Buccaneers.
So that's a stay away for you. I'm taking Tampa Bay +3. What is your third play of the week?
All right. So my last three plays, there's a trend, and the trend is that the teams are absolute crap. Betting on bad teams is never fun. People don't like to do it, but unless you're the Browns of last year or the Lions of whatever year that was, most teams don't lose all of their games. There's always good spots. My last three games are teams that are terrible teams, but I really like the spot that they're in. In the first one, I'm going to play the Oakland Raiders. They're -3. They're home against the Cleveland Browns. I love Baker Mayfield. I love what he did last week. I'm very happy for the city of Cleveland for getting that win. But this is his first start. It's on the road in a hostile environment in Oakland. And unlike last week, Oakland knows he's starting, so they're going to be able to plan for him. I like Mayfield. I liked him as the number one pick. He was my favorite quarterback. I think he has a great future. But this is a very, very tough position for him to be in on the road. And then you take the Raiders, who I've said on this podcast before, I think they're a very terrible team, and they're 0-3. They've played 180 minutes of football this year. They've been in the lead or tied for 157 and 36 seconds of those minutes, yet they're 0-3. They just haven't been able to finish. And I think against a lesser opponent at home with a rookie quarterback, they're going to be able to finish.
Yeah, I saw that stat as well. It's really crazy how easily they could be 3-0 as opposed to 0-3. They were, leading for the majority of the games, as you mentioned. They had the lead in all three fourth quarters. Yeah, just I mean, maybe you look to coaching and John Gruden there and inability to close those out. Maybe a elite pass rusher like Khalil Mack would be able to make a key
I also
play.
think the fact that they have that oldest average age in the NFL, I think, has a lot to do with that as well. Because by the time the fourth quarter comes along, they're winded. Although David Carr is not old, and his statistics in the fourth quarter are terrible as well. I just think this is a game where the Browns are still the Browns. They're on their way up, but they're not quite there yet. The Raiders are a bad team, but they're not an 0-16 bad team. They're going to win some games, and I feel like this is set up for one of those wins.
Yeah, I definitely see that side. I don't know. I kind of am staying away from either side just because I think there's a chance Mayfield's really, really something, and we could see 4 quarters of what we saw in the second half last week, and if he replicates that, then I think they win this one pretty easily. But I'm actually on this game as well. I'm on the under though. I like under 45. Cleveland's D has been outstanding this season. I know they don't get a lot of pub just because they're the Browns and whatever else, but between the pass rush they have, led by Myles Garrett, and even against a high-powered offense like the Saints, they held them to 21 points. And that was their lone loss of the season. So against Oakland, where Oakland put up some points, but they're very predictable, I would say. They're just going to bang it up the middle with Marshawn Lynch, and then they only have Cooper and Nelson as their receiving options, really. I don't really think Jared Cook's much of a threat, even though he had the big week 1. So I think Cleveland will be able to keep Oakland fairly in check when the Raiders have the ball. And then as far as the Browns are concerned, I don't know. I think maybe they just try to ease Mayfield into things a little bit in his first start. Maybe they rely on Carlos Hyde and that running game a little bit more than they typically might, just to try to give him a comfort zone in his first NFL start. So I don't know. I think they're going to try to slow it down. And I'm seeing kind of a similar to that Saints game where it's like a 21-17 type game, somewhere around there. I'm taking the under 45 in that one. That's my third play of the week.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I could see like a 23-13 kind of game going on.
Yeah. All right. So that's all my plays. And Oakland -3 was your third one. So go back to back. Give us your fourth and fifth plays for week 4, Dan.
All right, hold your nose because you're not going to like these next two teams.
I got a feeling what one of yours is. Why
You
don't you?
probably know what both of them are. What's the obvious one? Go for it.
I think you're taking Arizona +3.
My favorite play of the week. I love it. The Cardinals stink. They absolutely stink. There's no way around that. However, this is a home game. They're coming off a game in which they really battled. They had a big lead. They really could have won the game. And they finally have Josh Rosen under center for a full game. Um, I believe that other offensive players, not just the quarterback, get energized when the talented young guy comes in. You saw it with Baker Mayfield last week. Now, Mayfield was excellent. He was much better than Tyrod Taylor. But the receivers were catching the balls he threw. They were making plays for him. David Njoku caught a ball that he was dropping everything that Tyrod Taylor. They just step up. It's almost like a jolt of energy into a team when they're like, we're going to put this young guy in. Because they know that he is the future of the team. And if these guys want their jobs going forward, they're going to have to show that they have a repertoire with that guy. Combine that with the fact that Arizona's home, and combine that with the fact that Seattle is really, really bad, and they're about to, I think, completely fall apart in every way, shape, or form. I think that Arizona's going to get a win in this game. It's a division game. The teams know each other. Division games are generally close. I like home dogs in division games as it is. I just think the Cardinals are going to come away with this one. Seattle has nothing. Russell Wilson is incredible, but he has absolutely nothing to work with. He has no line. They have no defense. Their defense is completely depleted. Russell Wilson will make a couple plays. He'll scramble. He'll make things happen. But all Arizona's going to have to do, I think, is score between 15 and 20 in this game, and I think they can do it.
Yeah, I really agree with you on this. I saw this and really thought it was a good Arizona spot as well. Seattle's terrible. There's no reason they should be favored against anybody on the road. The only reason I didn't make this play is just, as you mentioned, Arizona's really bad, and it's hard to back a team like that. But yeah, it's the right spot. They're not going to go 0-16, so they got to pick up a win or two along the way. This at home against a bad Seattle team, coming off a week where they probably should have won, except Sam Bradford decided to completely blow the game, and like so bad that they decided to throw a rookie quarterback into his first NFL action with like 5 minutes left.
That was insane. That was so stupid. What were they doing?
Yeah, they're really doing a disservice to Rosen. And then they benched David Johnson because he missed a blitz pickup, and the most important carry, the third down carry of the game, they gave to Chase Edmonds instead. Yeah, I don't know what Mike McCoy's doing there. So
yeah, apparently that I almost did not bet this game for that reason. Their whole entire coaching staff is brutal. They are one of those stuck in 1998 coaching staffs. They're one of those staffs that are like, this is our system. Our players need to work within the system. Whereas the good coaches nowadays say, these are my players. What can I do to make these players succeed? I still just think it's too good of a spot.
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, just Seattle, not a good team. They shouldn't be favored on the road is what it boiled down to for me. So, all right, Arizona +3. What is your fifth and final play of the week?
Fifth and final play of the week, the New York Giants +3.5 at home against the New Orleans Saints. Saints had a very, very big road win against a division opponent last week. We were on them. I was on them. It was a big win for me. And I think that now you go against them. We've talked about the zigzag theory before, and it doesn't necessarily mean win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, but it means that there are certain spots, and a team's never as good as they look one week, and they're never as bad as they look one week. Saints had a great week. Offense was clicking on all cylinders. Everything worked out for them. But Drew Brees is never the same outdoors as he is in a dome. And even though they were on the road last week, it was still in a dome. Every Joe Schmo is going to see this line and think that New Orleans is a lock. And whenever that happens, I like to take the quote-unquote sharp side. And I just think that this is a game. I think Saquon's going to have a huge game. I think Odell Beckham's going to be able to, as long as Eli can get him the damn ball. I cannot stand betting on Eli Manning because I think he's terrible. But as long as he can throw it in the vicinity, I think Odell Beckham's going to have a huge game. And more than 3.5 points. That's more than a field goal. I think that's way too many points to take a home team. I've criticized the Giants. They stink. I even said in this podcast that my last three picks were all crap teams. They are a crap team, but they're one of the better crap teams. They have veterans. They know what they're doing on the football field. They're never going to be completely overmatched. And I think their defense is going to play well enough, and Drew Brees is going to struggle enough on the road that plus 3.5 is the right play.
Yeah, it does. The extra half point feels a little gratuitous. I don't know with the Saints with their how bad their defense has been. Even last week they got the win, but Matt Ryan throws for 5 touchdowns, so I don't think they've solved anything on that end of the
Not at
ball.
all.
So yeah, the Giants, even though they have their struggles and the offensive line is still pretty terrible, they look to at least figure some things out last week. Eli had a very good completion percentage for the first time this year, and yeah, they have that big playability with Odell and Saquon. So yeah, it's again, it's tough just backing inferior teams, but yeah, 3.5 at home. I think that's a little too high. Um, yeah, so I see where you're coming from with that. Uh, yeah,
It's real. Like
it's a real hold your nose, as you like to say.
if I have a 1-4 week, I'm going to look back and say, why did I take these teams? But it's just the right spot. I think it's, and I look, we've talked about this before. I love being on against the public. And I know the public's going to be on Seattle, the public's going to be on New Orleans, and the public's going to be on the Browns after they won a game and they have Baker Mayfield, and he's the hot new toy that everyone likes. I'm going to go with I want to be on the side of the books.
All right, so you're definitely doing that this week. All right, so your 5 plays to recap. You have Miami plus 6.5, Green Bay -9, Oakland -3, Arizona +3, and the New York Giants plus 3.5. As for myself, I'm on Detroit +3, Tampa Bay +3, and under 45 in the Oakland Cleveland game. All right, Dan. So thank you very much for joining us on your birthday. I know you have a new writing gig, so where can everybody find you out there?
So I got connected with this blog. I write a column every week. It's the same plays I give out over the air. I think there was one difference once where I gave a play on the podcast that I did not post there, but that was just because of the timing. It's called Branded Sports. It's a very fun sports, pop culture, that kind of thing. It's in the same vein as Barstool, and it can be found at www.thebrandedsports.com.
All right, so check that out if you're interested in seeing Dan's plays in written form. And as for me, you can follow me at Philly Fast Break, and of course at phillyfastbreak.com, and you can check out my Sixers coverage at libertyballers.com. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in, and good luck to you in week 4, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good luck.